I don't need these. No, I think. Nope, that is also not the correct way. Okay, great. Here we go. We're here. We made it. We are live. And I'm doing jazz hands for some reason. Hello. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're well. Thank you for being here. I have had a busy week. As usual, I'm doing too much. So I need to remind myself to rest and only do one thing at a time. And I hope that that is something you need too, because usually my singers are the same as me. We're doing so many things, and they're all good things in the world, right? None of it's like bad stuff, but it's too much stuff. So that's my thing I want to impart today. So I think mostly how this relates to singing is those of us who are go-getters and fighters and pushers and manipulators, and not to say in a bad way, right? Like you just have a thing about when something's wrong, you fix it, right? Not a bad problem to have in the everyday world. But sometimes when it comes to our inner world, it can be an issue, especially when we're talking about singing and art in general. I was having a conversation with a student this morning about yes, in most cases in like business and in school, like you gotta do the work and you have to, like, it's not a bad thing to want to be successful and to keep pushing and to go in the direction of your dreams, right? And of course we're doing that with singing too. But in a micro way, sometimes that gets in the way of us hitting the actual literal notes that we're wanting to hit, right? Technique-wise, the go-getterness and the fighterness in us and the squeezer and the just hunker down until the thing happens is the thing that is getting in your way of the feeling of success that you want in that specific note. Yes? So if you are going for a big belty note, this is the place where it happens the most on high notes, but it can happen anywhere in your range. It happens to me specifically on my low notes because I am a high-voiced person and I'm so used to opening and allowing up here. But in the low notes, I'm like, ooh, that's a really terrifying low note. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sink into it, right? So I let myself, I have a hard time letting myself ease into those low notes. So I have to remind myself over and over again, like, hey, it's a low note. It's not the end of the world if I don't get it. Also, low notes really, really like ease. Good day from Australia. Thanks for being here. I hope you're having a good time. I think a lot of people see high notes as like the only issue, but I think for high-voiced people like me, also tenors, it depends on where you feel like you are in your voice type, but like sopranos and tenors especially, like we really feel super comfortable up in the high stuff. So we just go, and then when we get to low stuff, we overdo, and so it ends up tightening the chords too much. Whereas when in your low, your chords have to be looser, and the actual muscles have to be thicker, right? So if I end up pushing and fighting in my low, it ends up being like, right? Whereas that note just needed me to back off and let it be what it is, which is nice and quiet and tender. And it comes out much easier. So if you have that issue in your lows, you are not alone. I promise. It's a different beast. So going back to the high stuff, which is a lot of people's zone of confusion and overfighting, this is kind of the same, except the opposite is true technically. Like your chords are tighter and the muscles are thinner. So if you try and squeeze, it's going to overdo that, and it's going to feel like you're trying to push a whole lot of air through a little straw really, really fast. So it ends up being, instead of a nice, big, open, yelly, kind of easy thing, like, hey! If you get into your fight and you let that kind of take over and you're worried about this note, and you're like, oh God, here's that big high note, I better squeeze, and you let that kind of patterning run the show, it'll end up being like, hey, right? It's not a very high note for me. Let's try that one. Hey, right? You can hear the squeeze a little bit. Hey, right? So if I want to make that note sound easier, which most of us do, hey, Sammy, welcome. The easiest part of that is reminding yourself that you can have this note feel as free as speaking it, right? That is usually how we remind our bodies that we can make these sounds. It doesn't have to be months and months of building up your range. It's not that you can't sing that note, although it's probably, some of us tend to pick songs that are higher than our range, and that is a whole other conversation. Like, bring the song to you, transpose it down if it's really higher than your range. But if it's a note that you can speak, like I use this example, like imagine you see a friend across the street and you go, hey, right? I can make that sound no problem all day. I'm open here. My abs are doing the work down underneath. Hey! I don't have to take a whole lot of extra breath, but I naturally take enough breath. It's just a thing that we know how to do. We've done it all of our lives, right? We've yelled at our friends on the playground forever. So that's the kind of thing I want you to start bringing into your singing, right? Just a little bit of that longer. So if you pretend, hey, Sam, perfect. So that's what we're kind of working on, is getting out of that fight or flight mindset of like, oh God, here's this big note. I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm going to just put everything I got into it, right? I'm going to tense all of my muscles, even if you're not doing it consciously. Sometimes we just do it because the fight pattern is so strong. So on purpose, before you sing that, think about what parts of your body you're going to relax. And good eye! Love it. So, and this means not relaxing your whole body so that you're like slumped, right? You're just feeling the alignment, lifting your ribs up out of your hips, lifting your shoulders up out of your ribs, lifting your head up out of your shoulders. So everything is lifted and floating and not stiff, right? When we talk about good posture, sometimes we think about like boarding school, somebody's smacking you with a ruler and you have to go, but that's not helpful for singing either. So you want to be lifted and adjust your spine so that it is actually straight up, right? But it doesn't have to be so tight, because all of that tightness contributes to tightness in here. So we want to be lifted and movable is the idea, right? We want to be able to move when we're singing, because one of my favorite phrases is tension is the enemy of movement. And so when we are able to move, when we're not here or here, when we're somewhere in the middle, we can actually move, and you can take your easy enough breath. You can open up this. You can just let that sound out nice and freely without all the pressure of that fight or flight pattern that comes in and is like, here's that big note, you better not mess it up, right? Part of this is the gremlin conversation. We got to tell the gremlin to F off. Like, I know how to do this. I've been doing it my whole life, right? You can go away for just this moment. And we give ourselves literal physical evidence that we can do it. And which is why I have you just say, hey, right? So like, hey! And if you can do that a little longer than is comfortable, you'll start to notice that gremlin starts to want to tighten up on that, right? Like, it starts to come in and be like, no, this is not fun. I don't like it. We have to do something. We have to make a change, right? So that instinct is going to come in, and your job is to be like, no, I got this. I'm doing fine. The sound is sounding. The note is noting. It is fine. You don't need to get involved. Gremlin, thank you very much. Go away. I love you. Appreciate you. See you later. Yes? So this is the whole idea about relaxing and allowing. Like, it is literally moment by moment noticing what your pattern is wanting you to do and saying, nope, I don't need all that extra tension. My goal is allowing. My goal is movement. My goal is freedom. My goal is to do something that I know I can do in other contexts and just bringing it into this one. So the idea is that you can already do this. It's just showing yourself that you can do it. so that your gremlin actually has evidence to go off of, like, oh, okay, I just saw you do that. Got it. I can back off now, right? And you are in control. Remember, you are in the driver's seat, so you get to be in play mode. And I think that's the other most important part of this conversation is we put so much dang pressure on ourselves. Like if you're just rehearsing in the car, why put all this pressure on yourself to get every note perfectly, right? You want to be in sandbox mode. You want to try out a bunch of different preparations for this note so that you can find the one that works best for your body. You want to try out different visualizations so you can find the one that helps get your mechanism in line in the right way that feels the most effortless and efficient to you. So if that means talking to somebody across the street, if that really works for your brain, great. If you're talking about the open tube and you're just envisioning this open tube, if that really works for you, great, do it. Whatever works for you, I want you to use. Take that with you and use it. Don't just say, oh, that's cheating if I do that. It's really not. I promise you, all your favorite singers are using these visualizations in their heads and using the same muscle memory as they're singing on stage. Pink, I guarantee she has done this practice many, many times in her life. She just trusts her voice that she can do it, right? And yes, she's been singing for a long time on stages, but this is where we take the pressure off and notice, am I putting as much pressure on myself as to be like as good as Pink right now? Maybe I am. Maybe I take a little bit of that pressure off, right? Imagine Pink when she was like 10 in voice lessons doing this work. How would you speak to her? You know, how do you speak to your own inner 10-year-old self that is trying, that is doing their best? You wouldn't say, nope, you suck, you can't hit that note, better not try. Who would say that to a 10-year-old, right? So treat yourself as you would treat a 10-year-old and say, look, you're doing a great job. We don't have to do so much work to make this happen, right? You can do this, absolutely. And your job is to be like, yes, we're listening to this voice instead of the gremlin voice that's telling you have to be a good, perfect, pretty singer. Or powerful in this case, I guess, right? So we're just looking for where the power lies. And usually when we're talking about these high notes, the power lies in letting go of the note, letting your body do what it knows how to do, letting go of the need to manipulate and the need to perfect it before it even leaves your mouth. So that's something to look at. How are you getting in your own way? How are you bringing maybe business philosophies into your singing? How are you bringing other sports philosophies into your singing? I've had students who are pole vaulters, and I've never done it, and that terrifies me. Holy crap, how do you bounce 20 feet in the air over a pole? That's crazy. But apparently it takes you engaging every single muscle in your body for those couple seconds, and that's how they were approaching high notes. And I was like, this makes so much sense. It makes so much sense because that's where your training is, right? If you are going for a big endeavor, your body training is to tighten, is to fetal position it, right? To hunker down. But when you're singing a big belty note, or even in your head voice, this happens too, when you're at the top of either register, we have a tendency to, right? And in this case, we have to really just open and let ourselves do what we know we can do, and let the abs take the brunt of that work. That's the most important part, right? Like, yes, your abs have to do some work still. Again, not doing a crunch. We're not doing this. We are just letting those abs stay here. So we are reminding your neck and your shoulders and your chest to relax and chill out. And if you need to remember how that feels, practice talking to somebody across the street, right? If you're in your car, talk to the person in front of you, right? In a nice way. No road rage is necessary. But just like, hey, what are you doing today? Right? That kind of thing. So ease yourself into it by reminding yourself that you can make the sound already. Because you can, I promise you. So, and if you can't, maybe lower the song a little bit. I hate to be the one to break the bad news, but let's talk that out together, you know? Like, if you really feel like you're not making that note, bring it down. But if it's a note that you can talk to a friend across the street on, then it's doable in the song. You just have to prepare in that same way within the song as well. And I promise you, if you feel like you're yelling, a big part of that is probably social training as well. Like, you've been taught to not yell or to not be too loud or something. If that resonates for you, then take a look at that in your life, where that has shown up for you and where you can take more charge of how you perceive your own voice in the world. I love writing sticky notes everywhere, and so I used to write them and stick them on the dashboard of my car. If that's where you sing a lot, do that. If you sing in the bathroom, put them in there. Wherever you sing, put them up. Have one that says, I'm allowed to make noise. I'm allowed to take up space. I am allowed to grow. I'm allowed to sing high notes with ease. So sometimes that helps remind yourself that you may be the one that is getting in your own way. And again, this is the gremlin, right? Yes, the gremlin is a part of you, and yes, it is overreaching sometimes, but you have the ability to say no to the gremlin and say, no, I'm not going to listen to that voice, because I have multiple voices hanging out. I'm going to listen to the voice that's maybe the little vocal coach in my brain that's telling me, yes, you got this. You can do it. Yes, I can absolutely make that sound because I've done it before. What is happening in my body that is stopping me from doing that? Am I feeling nerves? Am I singing in front of somebody that I haven't sung before? Am I, angry? Have I had a long, frustrating day at work? Is there some reason why I'm not feeling like I'm able to allow and fully release into this note? Take a look at your nervous system, right? That's another big, huge thing. So some of us, it's not our environment. Some of it's the gremlin in our heads all day yelling at us and making us feel unsafe. But some of it, it's actually your environment. Like if you just got done with a really hard day at work, like you're going to still be in fight or flight mode, and that's where you're going to sing from. So pay attention to where you are singing from in the environmental way. I think that's all the pieces of this conversation that are coming to me right now. If you have any questions, feel free, let me know. But whatever visualizations that I use that work for you, hold on to them. Write them down on a sticky note, put them in your car. Whatever words help you get into this place of, I got this. I can sing with power and not squeeze. Whatever words help you get there, use them. It's not cheating. Use them. Your voice is run by your mind. We have the only human body instrument. So you got to take care of the thing that drives it first and foremost, because this thing, often, if you're a fighter, its only solution to every problem is just freaking go, right? Gas pedal, do all the things, tense all the muscles, try harder, and it will be muscled into working, right? If you're a fighter, this does not apply to you. If you're a freezer, this does not apply to you. But you have control over what you choose to listen to in there. So be a gentler driver to yourself. Thanks for being here. Love you all. Have a great day. Ooh, that's fun. Thank you. I'll be here next week, and I will be taking off one of these days because I'll be at the Hawaii Songwriting Festival. But I'll see you very soon, and always here for you if you have questions. I'm opening another cohort of Vocal Magic. Probably be opening the doors in June, so keep your eye out for that if you're interested. And thank you, and I already said thank you a bunch of times. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. Bye. Boop.